Hello, everyone, and welcome to Project Model UN. Today, I have a very, very special treat for you because I have with me the one and only Secretary General for MUN India 2014. His name is Pratik Agarwal, and he's going to talk to us about strategy and tactics. I know a lot of you are preparing for MUN India, and you're really excited. So I wanted to make sure that I got him on camera to give us what it is that we need to that we need to do in these last couple of days before the conference. So Pratik, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
Okay, so my first question to you, which I know my students are wondering, is what does it take to be a top performer at MUN India 2014? What do students need to do?
So I think from a broad perspective, as Secretary General and as someone who has been sort of on the administrative side, as well as traveled with delegates myself and participated in Model UN conferences as a delegate. Broadly speaking, I think you really have to make sure that you come into conference really prepared. I think that's the first step that you need to take.
Right.
A lot of students think that they can, get away with not preparing too much and just coming to conference and winging it, which will in some cases work out well, but in most cases it won't get you to be a top performer. You might be recognized by the chair to some extent, and perhaps you'll even win an award, but it certainly won't get you recognized as a top performer. And so that's why I think that the first key is making sure that you're extremely prepared.
Okay. Can you give us a few examples? Because a lot of times being prepared in research is just like the most overwhelming thing in the planet, right? So what did you do as a delegate specifically?
Yeah, so I think what comes with preparation is really focusing on what's going to be your plan of strategy in terms of solutions. So when, for example, the directors put together background guides, oftentimes they'll have questions that the committee should answer or questions that a resolution should answer. And I think a lot of the time delegates may focus too much on a lot of background information and too much on what the committee is about and what the topic is about, and not enough time on how do I exactly go about proposing and solving solutions to this issue that's presented before me. What's going to be my game plan? How am I going to go into the first committee session and present my platform, essentially? I think there's too little focus on sort of what's my platform and what's my game plan, and too much focus on let me amass as much information about the topic as I can in my head.
And then so it's great, but it's not relevant. It doesn't translate.
Exactly. Like you can get up and speak at the microphone and throw out as many facts as you want. But if they don't relate to a specific plan of action or a specific platform that you're voicing, you're not going to be recognized by the chair, nor are you going to be recognized by your fellow delegates, which are equally important. It's too complicated. There's too many facts, and people oftentimes aren't really interested in those and don't have the willpower to even pay attention to so much information being thrown at them. So I would say the focus should be in preparation. Obviously you need some amount of background information, but after that, especially in the days leading up to conference, a clear outlined version on paper of what's going to be my game plan and how am I going to approach, the first committee session. So I establish myself as this is what I want to happen in this committee.
I love it. Okay, I love everything that you said, and I want to break it up a little bit so that we fully understand it.
Yeah.
So, first action item right now is, if you haven't already, go to the background guide, forget everything else, and figure out did your chair write questions to consider or things that a resolution needs to address. Like, that is step number one, and make sure that your solutions address that, and if they don't, get to it. Okay. And the second thing, you said you need to come up with a plan of action, and you called it a platform. Actually, you said, "What's my platform?" Tell us about that. What is that? What is a platform?
For example, I can recall one time when I was a delegate in high school. What I had come into conference with was a specific. I hadn't written out a full-fledged resolution or anything because I knew that I would have to work with delegates to get that going and the specific ideas and the facts. But what I did come into conference was with a specific, for example, I called it a two-pronged approach, and that I was going to tackle the issue through this avenue and through this avenue. So like an economic avenue and a political avenue. And from the first speech that I got up and said, that's what I introduced. I was like, my delegation, our delegation's point of view and our platform is a two-pronged approach. We're going to tackle it through economics, and we're going to tackle it through politics. And these are the, a little bit of the specifics in the way that we're going to do it. But little sound bites like that, little phrases that show and distinguish what your ideas are and who you are, things that the other delegates can latch onto and say, this person really has a cool idea or a cool, sort of platform that they, have thought about and that will probably work. And that might get a lot of people to crowd around them during those unmoderated caucuses. And so if you don't go in with sort of that firmly built into your mind, like how am I going to present this? A lot of Model UN, when I say platform, is not just about the idea, but how you present it, what words you use to present that, what things people will listen to. And so that's hard to develop, but if you think about it beforehand, the way you can present your plan of action or your solutions in a creative way that grabs people's attention, that's what I would call a platform.
I love it, like how you sell it. I was talking to my students about this today, and I love it because it's exactly what you're saying. A lot of times people just get into the solutions like, we should have this policy, and we should have an education campaign. Everybody loves education campaigns. But what you're saying is like everybody, like it's just so unoriginal. But you're saying take it a step above that and say we're going to deal with economic issues, political issues, and even social issues. And then you give specifics. Love it.
Right. So like your ideas might be the same, in fact, as someone else's ideas, but if you present them in a better way, you're the one that delegates are going to want to talk to.
Yes. I love that, and can you just repeat that because I think it's so powerful?
Sure. So a lot of the ideas might be similar, and in fact, your ideas might be exactly the same as another delegate's ideas. But if you present them in a better way, then people are going to be more willing to listen to you.
I love it. I love it. And a lot of times people are like, I can't come up with better ideas, or they're the same. And I'm like, yeah, and that's fine. You just need to be the one who presents it with a framework that people can latch onto. I love it. Now, I want to talk a little bit about strategy because you did mention it. You said you need to come with a game plan about how you are going to approach the first committee session. A lot of my students, they ask me, they say, we were working on solutions today, and they said, wait, but isn't the first speech supposed to be just about the topic? They're not sure what they should accomplish in the first committee session and in that first speech. What would you say to them? What is the goal for the first committee session?
Yeah, I think the goal for the first committee session is definitely to establish yourself as being someone who is intriguing and should be talked to. And I think the way to do that is, yes, of course, it's a time to talk about the topic generally, and it's a time to discuss those issues. But right from the start, you have to make yourself known. And to make yourself known, you have to present your platform somehow. You can talk about the topic generally as well, and that's definitely a good idea to perhaps start your speech with. But somewhere in there, you have to sort of say, and this is how we believe it should be done, and this is why. Even if it's subtle, it should be it should be clear and it should be recognizable. And if your platform is creative enough that you've thought about beforehand, and you present it in a way that's good, which comes across not just in the word choice, but also simply in your manner of speech, in your voice, your style, people will want to come to you. And I think that's the key. You want to go into that committee session such that by the end of it, people know who you are. Maybe not by name, but they can pick you out in the crowd, and they'll go to you because of that.
I love it. Present your platform. Like, yes, talk about the topic a little bit, but it's really about presenting your platform, and your goal is people know who your country is and that you're intriguing. I love it. I love it. Okay, perfect. Now, a lot of the questions that I'm getting is, you should kind of expect, this is what I tell my students, especially if you're in a committee like WHO with 193 countries. I tell them, expect not to be called on. Like, expect it. Because otherwise students are always like, oh, the chair didn't call on me, so now what I do? I'm like, expect it. Like, it's going to happen. What do you tell students who ask, how do I get the chair to recognize me? Is it a matter of just keep raising your placards? Is it make motions? Go talk to the chair? What do you recommend for students who have like this concern?
Yeah, I think there's two sides to that. One is if you make a name for yourself, for example, in the first committee session, if people know who you are, chances that means the chair knows who you are too.
Yeah.
And so if you get a time to make a speech, it better be worth it. You know, like if you get an opportunity that one time the chair calls on you, if it's worth it, chances are just because the chair's staring out into the distance, they recognize a country name, and so they'll call on you.
Yeah.
Or they'll consciously not call on you, but make it a point to call on you in the next round of calling on you. So regardless of the situation, you want to make it a point to be known.
Right. And when you get that opportunity, like, make it count. Make it memorable.
Yeah.
Right? Love it.
And then secondly, don't focus on being called on all the time, because that means you're not paying attention to everything that goes on behind the scenes. Obviously, the best delegates are the ones who are furiously writing clauses upon clauses when they're not being called upon. And those are the delegates, or passing notes, or going out of the room and making alliances with people. And so those are the delegates who actually succeed the most, because when they're called on, and they raise their placard, most every time. When they're called on, they make it count. But when they're not called on, they aren't, looking at the chair to be called on, or begging to be called on, or going talking to the chair. They're constantly doing everything. So you'll see them just raise their placard while simultaneously writing tons of things. It's like an instant reaction. They're not looking at the chair to be called on. They're doing things while raising their placard.
I love it. They're not begging to be called on, but I love what you said. They're always doing something. They're moving the committee forward, whether it's writing or sending notes, building alliances. Very good.
And I think actually another point is, if you actually go talk to the chair about it too much, that can actually be negative, because the chair doesn't want to be bothered by someone who keeps on saying call on me, when they're doing their best to sort of call on everyone equally.
I love it.
So that's
don't
something
go whine
I
about
could
it.
start against.
Like, instead of, and I agree, like, don't go and say, hey, you're not calling on me. Instead, make yourself memorable and build these alliances. Like, add value first, and then the rest will follow as a consequence for that. Perfect. I love it. My final, actually, just request to you is, are there, now that students, like, they're really excited, they're coming into this, what are any final words of advice that you have for them, or like a thought or a quote or something that you want to leave them with?
Yeah. I think like the most important thing about these conferences is something that I've sort of gotten disillusioned with in Boston, actually, or the conferences in America, is a lot of times students come to these conferences and they're really excited, but they don't take advantage of it. It sounds like it sounds cliched, but I think it's really important that students who are excited about this conference don't just view it as, I'm going for the Harvard brand, like I'm going for Harvard. Like, we offer a great quality conference and substantive experience with amazing committees and amazing directors. But the point is that if delegates don't take advantage of it fully, if they don't invest themselves to the best of their ability in all aspects of the conference, in terms of the committee room, as well as making friendships, as well as getting to know people, then they're not going to get the most out of it. And so I would say, even if you don't win an award, even if you feel like you didn't do as good performance-wise in the conference, if you gave it your all and you invested yourself fully into it, it'll be enjoyable and memorable. And I hope that every single delegate really does that, because the reason that we do this at Harvard is because that's what we enjoy. We want to make this a great learning experience for delegates, and we want it to be inspirational for them to go out and become leaders in the world. And so, we really hope and we really encourage every single delegate to fully invest themselves and to take full advantage of this opportunity that we can provide for them.
I love it. And by that you mean like go to committee, make speeches, make
Yeah,
alliances, like give it your best. It's not just whether or not you win an award. And then you're saying, I hear you say like even social events, like go like
yeah,
have a good time. Don't just say, oh, I'm going to a Harvard conference. That's like a check. No, no, like
yeah.
that's just the beginning. Like go
Yeah,
and like,
don't view it as, yeah, don't view it as a checkbox on some application, or like as this is, what I did, so therefore I'm done. Because,
yeah,
the people at Harvard who had the best experiences with Model UN as high school students as well, are those, and who actually succeed the most, are those who give it their all.
I love it.
And if you do that, you'll have a much better time at conference than you would otherwise.
Amazing. I love that. Well, Pratik, thank you so, so much. I wish you
Yeah.
all the best with HMUN 2014, and I'm sure the students are really gonna, I'm gonna like send it to them like right away, and I'm sure they're gonna just be like, I'm ready for it.
Sounds
Wonderful.
good.
Thank you so much, Pratik.
Yeah, no worries.